What's going on is Anton from antondaniels.com. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me. Spirit Airlines, this is something that I would usually cover on the Millionaire Morning Show mostly, and I probably am going to do a special live stream tomorrow just to be able to address some issues that I think that we need to talk about in the culture. But Spirit Airlines has filed for bankruptcy for a second time this year. I covered this. I told y'all they were in a cash crunch. We covered the hospitality industry as well as the airline industry on Patreon. But I want to just go ahead and just let y'all know what's happening for all of my Spirit flyers, for everybody that's trying to pick a new airline to make sure that they had a loyalty points. This is something for you. All right. So we're going to deep dive into this a little bit and I'm going to give you all my thoughts. Just going into it, the article, this is courtesy of CNBC. Obviously, a lot of different sites is covering it, but it's the weekend, so it's not as much coverage. So I want to keep y'all up to date on what's happening in the culture. Spirit Airlines on Friday filed for bankruptcy protection for a second time in a year, just months after the country's largest budget carrier failed to find sturdy financial footing when it came out of Chapter 11 protection in March. But here's the thing, and this is what I want to tell y'all when it comes to Spirit, is that it didn't really matter that they restructured their debt or, they filed for bankruptcy protection, because they never should have really been let out of bankruptcy protection until they came up with a better plan to be able to have a sustainable business model. Because first of all, the airline industry is full of debt. Secondly, it's dependent on whatever is happening in the economy. The first thing that then tends to go when it comes to the economic climate is people start to cancel their flights. They start to look for cheaper flights and all of that. And the fact of the matter is that Spirit, when you start to add on bags, when people start to add luggage and all of that stuff, they are not really a budget airline anymore. They're more or less a just a substandard carrier when it comes to fees, and they try to fee you to death, and most people just want that upfront cost. But let's continue. It goes on to say Spirit debt holders agreed to the airline's previous bankruptcy to exchange $795 million in debt for equity. So basically what happened when they filed for bankruptcy the first time is the people that were the debt holders, because they had almost $1 billion in debt that they was trying to wipe out. And so what happened was the debt holders said, all right, listen, you guys come up with a sustainable business model that'll allow for y'all to be able to make money. We gonna basically take equity in the company in exchange for trying to help you wipe out this $800 billion debt, to cut costs and to get rid of planes, more dramatically shrinking its footprint. Goes on to say Spirit now says it will reduce its network and shrink its fleet. Cut said it said will add to reduce costs by hundreds of millions of dollars a year since emerging from our previous restructuring, which was targeted exclusively on reducing Spirit's funded debt and raising equity capital. It has become clear that there is much more work to be done and more tools are available to best position Spirit for the future. Spirit CEO Dave Davis said in a news release on Friday. So now what they're trying to say is, instead of just cutting costs, right? Cutting costs when it comes to paying off his debt and making interest payments and all of that stuff. Now they want to change their business model, which should have been what they were doing in the first bankruptcy. But to be honest with you, I don't think that Spirit is going to survive. I think that Spirit is going away. I think that Frontier is going to go away. If you guys are familiar and you do or you have been tuning into the Millionaire Morning Show, then you know that I've already detailed this. They got a new airline that's coming out, or a new airline that's targeting the best routes, that's trying to make sure that it fill up its planes, and it comes at a much, much lower cost, called Breeze, right? And I went over that, and I don't want to promote it because they're not writing me a check. They should be writing me a check, but they're not writing me a check. But there's other budget airlines that is doing better than them, and sometimes you can even go with some of the traditional airlines, the American, the Deltas, the Southwest, all of those, in order to get a flight, depending on where you're going and when you're going to go and where you're going to go, to probably beat or match the cost of what they're doing with Spirit, right? Goes on to say in its filing, Spirit listed its assets and liabilities between $1 billion and $10 billion. The carrier sought to reassure customers that they can continue to book and fly on Spirit after its bankruptcy filing. Virtually every major U.S. airline has these tools to improve their businesses and position them for long-term success. Spirit posted on its Instagram account on Friday, written in white against a black background, uncharacteristic for the carrier that is often featuring a bright yellow plains and tropical beaches. And then you goes on to say that. I actually have, it's funny because somebody texted me. which was the first that I knew about it. And they said, "Yo, Anton, it's an email that is happening out here in these streets that is going around. Spirit just emailed all of his customers, and I'm gonna actually send that to y'all. I'm gonna show y'all that on the screen, which it basically just lays out exactly what I'm telling y'all right now. But they basically emailed and sent out to their customers the fact that thank you for being a valued member. Spirit took a proactive step to build a stronger foundation and future for our company. We have voluntarily entered Chapter 11 restructuring process to ensure long-term success of our airline so we can continue to serve our guests well into the future. Chapter 11 is a court-supervised legal process that allows companies to restructure their business while continuing operations virtually. Every major U.S. airline has used these tools to improve their business's position and long term success. So, what Spirit is basically saying to its customers is that, they want to pause making payments to vendors, maybe pause making payments to debt holders, and so on and so forth, so they can try to fully restructure his business operations and it can come out healthier and cleaner. Now, they did say something that was true. They said that virtually every major U.S. airline has done this before, and that is true. Again, it is a volatile, very, very volatile market to be in as far as an investor. I tell my bag chasers and Patreon members, I did a whole live stream on it and I broke down how to look at the charts and everything that's happening. So if y'all want to tap into the Patreon, link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. But it is. It's a volatile industry, and it's not unusual for an airline at some point, because I know I've been covering Vegas a lot on the Millionaire Morning Show and what tourism is like there. It's not unusual for an airline at some point within the next over every decade or so to file for bankruptcy in order to try to save itself and restructure its debt. So again, but I don't think that Spirit is going to last. I think that they are probably going to collapse if they don't do something drastic and significant in order to make sure that they can operate a lot more cleaner and get their books together. But I think that Frontier will probably be next. So you're probably going to see the folding and the collapsing of that. They tried to merge, which I didn't think that was a good idea anyway. It goes on in this article to say Spirit, known for its bright yellow planes, had expected to come out stronger from its previous bankruptcy, which had entered in November and emerged in March, but the airline was dragged down by continued high costs and weaker U.S. domestic travel demand. In the court filing in December, Spirit had forecast a net profit of $252 million this year, but earlier this month said it lost nearly $257 million since March 13th after it exited Chapter 11 through the end of June. So people have been absolutely not rocking with it. The shares is down 72% over the past month and down 45% in after hours trading on Friday, which that is crazy. So if you were short in Spirit, which, I'm not going to get into all of that. If you were short in Spirit, then you probably made a lot of money, but you definitely want to go ahead and cash out at this point. Again, I don't think that anything is going to come of it. I've been telling my people never to invest in airlines in general, let alone the Spirits. I know a lot of people jumped on it, especially during COVID, foolishly because they didn't know what they was doing, and a lot of people was losing a lot of money right now. So, yeah, man. Again, I think that Frontier is probably going to be next. Ain't no way in hell you going to sit here and tell me that they able to survive over the next 10 years, especially considering what's happening in Spirit right now. But that's just my personal opinion. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Teach Henley, 40% off your first order plus 20% off of life. I love you. I appreciate you. Hopefully, you guys are starting to pivot and understand that your loyalty points need to be going somewhere else, because I'm not sure what's going to happen with Spirit. But right now, you can still catch a flight, and you shouldn't have any problems whatsoever. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to keep you guys up to date.